Yes, people, what's happening? And welcome to the Frankie Allen Podcast. You are here with your host, Will Cranny, alongside me dad, the UK's most feared comedian, Frankie Allen. Frank, what's happening? You're all good?
Doing great. We've had a fantastic weekend, very busy, and glad to be back here again. Doing another podcast. I'm sure it's going to be a great day.
So yeah, a bit of a boss weekend, to be fair, wasn't it? We had a nice little chill job. Obviously, we work all over the fucking UK. But
Chester, when we were working in Chester, only, 20 miles away, 25 miles away, the most wherever in Chester it is. Very, very close compared to the places we've been to. And even the places we're going to. We've got to go to Inverness, is it? The most northernest, most part of Scotland.
Yeah, well, I haven't booked that yet.
Okay. I thought we were going there.
No, I haven't booked that yet, only purely because of the fact of you were saying on the way here that you wanted to get the train there.
Yeah.
And the original plan was to get the plane. So I didn't book it because I knew that you'd have a problem with the travelling. And most people won't know about your struggles with travelling.
I've got a fear of flying. Everybody knows that. But I can always get the train. If you want to fly, you can fly. I can meet you there.
I know.
What's wrong with that?
No, it was only because the original plan was to get a plane there.
Yeah, the original plan is get a plane. I'd love to fly to New York and Florida and Hawaii, but I can't.
But you flew to Tenerife.
Yeah, because I've been hypnotised and it worked. And when we were flying in, I felt fantastic. We were coming into land, then we had a problem. So I kind of felt vindicated about my fear of flying because we had a problem when we were coming into land.
We didn't have a problem.
We did have a problem. We were coming into land. You could see the top of the houses.
Yeah.
The next thing is I remember years ago when I used to fly, when they deployed the undercarriage, you know, when it drops down the landing gear, you hear a big bang, and it didn't hear one all the way, but nothing happened. So the next thing is the pilot just fucked off back up to 30,000 feet, and he just flying round for ages.
Yeah, but it was only because someone else was on the landing strip.
No, I don't believe that, Will.
Well, what do you believe happened then?
I believe that the landing gear wouldn't come down. So we had to fly around and make another attempt. And I think the second time it worked. It was fucking horrible. This girl came on, like the Spanish air hostess, and she went, "The pilot will not be landing at this time."
Yeah, but it was only because obviously there was another plane that was too close.
But that done nothing for my fear of flying.
Yeah.
Let's move on. I don't want to talk about flying today.
Right, anyway, people of Inverness, we might see you soon. We had a date pencil for the end of July.
I'll be getting off the train. Don't be blackmailing me saying we're not going to go if you don't fly. If we don't go.
Okay, fair enough. But we want to do shows abroad in future, do we not?
Yeah, but Will, for fuck's sake, we've already been through today what we're going to talk about today. Flying wasn't coming into it all fucking Inverness.
Okay, Sam.
Can we carry on with something else? You're so like, what are you kicking off for?
This is not me kicking off.
Fuck's sake.
Anyhow, over the last two podcasts, people have been buzzing off the fact that Frankie can spin a good yarn. He's good at telling a story. Yeah. And we were talking between ourselves before the podcast about certain stories that you've had on the clubs over the years. You reckon, and I would not second guess it to be honest, that you're more experienced in terms of the amount of shows that you've done than any comedian in the UK. Would you say that's correct?
I would say so, yeah.
I mean, you've been going since what, 18 or something like that? Since
I was 18, 19, it's a long time. The thing is, what people fail to realise, anybody who's a kind of student of comedians or comedy in general, a lot of people are growing up now and all they see is these comedy clubs, little tiny rooms. They don't see huge venues like great big pubs that used to be in the 90s, 80s, fun pubs that there used to be. They don't see tiny little rough pubs. They don't see memorial halls being used as venues. They don't see comedians standing on barges like I used to do with strippers, you know, going down a lock, descending 20 foot into a lock full of water pouring in, and I'm on a stage telling jokes, or telling jokes kind of like on a coach, which we've done a few times, on a bus for some lads who are going to Chester races. Another time, some lads are going to Pontefract to the races. So they're all on the bus, and I'm standing there with a little mic telling gags. You're following me, if you remember. You followed me. Down the M62, by the time I'd done an hour, we finished when we got just past Leeds, pulled up on the hard shoulder. I got off the coach and you picked me up.
Well, you did a show like that recently, didn't you? when I was away in Italy,
Yeah.
my dad did a show for some lads.
Yeah,
for
but
the
they
stag
would go into Chester races.
Yeah.
They were just in a
having
pub.
a brekkie in the morning.
That was a breakfast in the morning. Started at 8:30 in the morning. A lovely breakfast. And 25, 30 lads, all dressed to the nines. I'm sure all young lads out for the day, looking for birds. They were all immaculate. They looked great. All like movie stars. I went on, 9 o'clock, fantastic audience. Then they got on a coach and I went home, but they went on to Chester races, yeah.
So basically what you're trying to say is, obviously, you haven't had kind of like, what you'd say is quite a charmed existence for some of the modern day comedians who jump on stage and they've got nice little intimate rooms. You've basically done all kinds of different gaffes.
Thousands of kind of different rooms, and not just the rooms. I've been in every different kind of scenario where I've had people kicking off, I've had people attacking me. I've been filled in. You know, I'm not afraid to say that. You know, things have happened in clubs. You know, someone's kicked off, a gang of lads have kicked off, a whole table's kicked off where they've been throwing pint glasses at me, trying to get me. I've had all that. I've had escape from clubs, I've run out of places, got in my car, drove away. You just wouldn't believe what I've been through. But what I want to talk about today, which is very interesting, people go on about, you know, rough venues, rough places, rough areas, and they think, a lot of people think that it's just kind of working class places where you're going to get trouble, you know, the middle of Liverpool or a rough estate in Manchester, you know, or you might go up to Preston or the northeast or somewhere and people are kicking off rough. I've done a lot of shows over the years. I'd say 25, 30% of my work for really upper class people, what I'd call snobs, very, very posh people, and they can kick off just as much, if not worse.
Do you mean kick off in like an aggressive way, or kick off as though they're like
be very aggressive,
being snobby and snooty?
A lot of the snobs, real snobs that have found out, kind of, you know, public school boys, when they have shows, they're very, very silly, and they do a lot of silly things.
Yeah.
You know, I remember once a guy gave me this job, and it was in Wilmslow in Cheshire. Now, anybody who doesn't know, Wilmslow is a very high, you know, a lot of footballers live there, a lot of kind of like rich people. It's kind of the Beverly Hills of the Northwest. So when I done the show in Wilmslow, it was in the rugby club. Can I say the rugby club?
Yeah,
Doesn't
of course,
matter. It was in Wilmslow Rugby Club. When I got in there, walked in, everybody, about 250 fellas, all between the ages, say 25, 45, they were all wearing tuxedos, immaculately dressed, starched white shirt, bow ties, lovely tuxedos with one of these things around the waist. I think they call it a cummerbund.
Yeah, I've never wore one. Yeah.
All hired, you know, they all hired all the suits, brand new fucking shoes, shining paint and leather. Oh, so this guy comes on.
Just to interject, what was the purpose of the show? Like, was it a wedding or was it?
No. They were just, it was. A lot of people in the UK, even now, they do things annually where they do it once a year, and it's kind of a tradition with them.
Like a captain's dinner thing?
Yeah, but not a captain's dinner, just it's our annual dinner. Yeah. Nobody really knows when it started.
Yeah.
Could have started in 1800.
So it's all the lads who were like, what, used to play for Wilmslow Rugby Club or something like that?
Possibly, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It might be the old boys.
Yeah.
Or people who are still playing and they're selling tickets to raise money basically for the club.
Okay.
So there's me, little old Frankie Allen. I get up there in my Ford Capri. Got to be about 1990 or something. And I walked in and it did strike me. I thought, fucking hell, good job I've got my suit on and a shirt and tie. And even then I felt underdressed because everybody had these bow ties on, tuxedos, 250, 300 people in identical clothing on, and they were all sitting there and they were having this meal when I got in. So this fella comes up to me and he goes, "Hello, Frankie." And I said, "Hello." He said, "Right, we're having a meal, we're having dessert. How about going on about 9:30? I said, "Oh, that's great." "Right, no problem. There you go." So I go on at 9:30 and they're all laughing and all. The next thing is somebody had come up behind me. I didn't see. I mean, when you're on the stage, you think you've got peripheral vision. You can see right round you. I don't know where the fuck this fella come.
This is while you're on stage?
While I'm on stage telling jokes. This fucking fella come behind me. And when I saw him later on, he was about 25 stone. He was fucking huge. Anyway, the next thing is I'm staring at the floor. He just jumped on me and put me in a headlock. So I was trying to get out. There was no way I could have got out. It was as though like I just couldn't have tried. I couldn't even move him. He was so heavy. Then I started feeling this burning thing on my face. My mouth was burning.
Yeah.
I thought, what the fucking hell is this? So the next thing, these guys got up off a table, jumped on him and grabbed him and pulled him off. So I thought I had acid on my face or something. I didn't know what the fuck it was. So we had to stop. So I ran into the bathroom, into the gents. I started putting water all over my face. You won't believe this. What it was boot polish. Now, they were all sitting there and they all knew each other very well. A lot of them were solicitors, lawyers, kind of like, had their own businesses, very wealthy lads. So they'd all hired these tuxedos and they'd cost them a lot of money to hire these tuxedos. So what they thought was very, very funny, a funny thing to do, was to take a can of boot polish with them, black boot polish. And when the mates weren't looking, smear the shirt and the suit with boot polish.
Okay.
So it cost them a few £100 to get it cleaned or it was ruined. They thought it was funny. So this guy had grabbed me and he's putting this fucking boot polish. He must have been trying to put it on my shirt and on my suit, but it went to my mouth.
Was he doing it as a joke or was he doing it being aggressive? Yeah. Okay, yeah.
He thought that was the funniest thing anyone was ever going to go and see because everybody was smearing each other with this boot polish. He thought to do it to the comedian would be 10 times funnier.
So what happened after you washed it off?
Well, what happened in the end, you won't believe this. So I'm in the fucking dressing room. So the fella come in, and a big fat fella come in with a couple of...
So you stopped your set completely?
Stopped the fucking set.
It's ruined it for everyone.
Dropped the mic on the floor. There was a little bit of a kick-off. They were dragging this fella away.
Did you kick off on him back?
Well, I just wanted to make sure
that, I didn't
have acid on my face. I didn't know what the fuck it was. My mouth was burning.
Yeah.
So I'm in the bathroom or the toilet and I've got this water and I'm just washing my face. Started to feel okay. So this fella come in and said, get me a glass of fucking lemonade. So he ran out and got me some lemonade, gargling it in case it'd been poisoned and everything. So then this big fat fella come in who'd put this polish all over my fucking face. And he went, Frankie, I'm terribly sorry. It was a bit of a lark. I said, fucking hell, mate. Look at me fucking mouth. Look at me shirt. It was all over my shirt and all over me fucking suit.
Mad.
He went, oh, look. And he pulled a bundle of money out. You've never seen anything like it in your life. Hundreds of fucking pounds. Wasn't like now where everyone's using the cards.
Yeah.
Everyone had cash. But he had cash. He must have had like $1,000 in his wallet. And he said, oh, yes, your suit. I've got it on. I'm terribly sorry. He said, look, get a new shirt. And he gave me 200 quid.
Yeah.
Then I said, look at me fucking suit. I got on it then. I said,
go on.
I can get money off this prick.
Yeah, yeah.
But I didn't want to milk him too much. He said, look at me fucking suit. Now, the suit was from Asda.
Yeah.
In those days, it cost me £34 for the pants and the jacket.
Yeah.
But I went, look at me fucking suit. He went, oh, I'm terribly sorry. So he gave me 300 quid.
So you made 5 ton?
500 fucking pounds.
Yeah.
Then the fella paid me 200 that was on anyway for doing the show. Then they were all begging me to go back on.
Did you go back on?
Yeah. He said, Frankie, will you go back on? And I said, yeah, I'll go back on. Jolly good. He's going back on. So he ran to the mic, picked the mic up and he went, gentlemen, Frankie's prepared to go back on. So they're all standing up.
Go on.
Clapping.
Yeah.
So I got on the mic, found out this fella's name was Nigel. And I said, Nigel, don't be putting... they're all screaming, howling, laughing.
Mad that.
Anyway, later on that night, I don't know why or for whatever, they were just trying to make it up to me. They'd been in the kitchen and what they'd been eating that night, this fucking big dinner, roast potatoes and fucking meat and all that, fucking big like a Sunday dinner and all that, they put it in this tray. And on the way out, they were walking on and they said, Frankie, could you accept this from us? We're terribly sorry. Can you accept this from us? So I said, yeah, I'll take that. And they give me all these scones and things from the kitchen. And as I was getting in my car, fella gave me 50 quid.
Go
The
on.
fella who was running the show.
Yeah.
So in the end,
750 job.
I ended up with about 700 quid
Yeah.
for this fucking idiot rubbing something in my face.
So when you went back on for the second half, did you go down well?
Well, yeah, it went down fantastic because I didn't really have to tell any jokes. Trying to tell a couple of gags. They weren't really into the gags.
Yeah.
They wanted me picking on. And every now and then, I'd say, if somebody wasn't laughing, I'd say, have a fucking laugh, mate. Otherwise, Nigel's going to come and put you in a fucking headlock. And they were all going, oh.
Hilarious.
Crazy.
Mad. So basically, my dad never ever usually prepares for stuff like this. But you enjoyed the last two podcasts so much.
They were great.
That my dad's given me a list today of loads of different stories that he's come up with just while you were chilling in your own time.
These are all true stories. I swear on your life. I'm not exaggerating or telling lies. These things, I'm sure things have happened to other comedians which might be equally as funny or curious or interesting. You know, all the thousands of places I went to. I've done a show and it's between this like big pub in the middle of the... It was between Glossop, which is the other side of Manchester, and Sheffield on the Woodhead Pass. It's called.
Is this on this list?
Yeah. So it's right up. It may not be. It's right. Freemasons. It was the Freemasons show. It's there.
Okay.
So it's right up in the mountains, and it was a Christmas show.
Yeah.
This is when I got shot. So I walked into this fucking place.
Wait there. What do you mean you got shot?
Let me explain. I'll tell you what happened. So I walked in, and all these fucking real snobby, all men, they were these Freemasons or something. So anyway, the guy said, it was nice enough, you know, are you eating with us? I said, no, just tell me when you need me and I'll go on. So I went on, and I kind of like, I felt a bit strange because they all looked weird. It was like a scene from the old movie Village of the Damned. They looked weird. They looked so kind of like fucking big heads on them and big ears, and they were all kind of like headmasters, solicitors and bankers and bank managers and everything.
Is this just like another annual do? Is this
an annual show, a Christmas Day Christmas show? So the next thing is, you won't believe this is true. They were all on separate tables, about 7 people to a table.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, as I'm going on, a table stood up, 7 fellas. And they all started singing in unison, all together. On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 500 and a partridge in a pear tree. I went, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Then they sat down and another table stood up. And they went, on the second day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 5 gold ring, 3 of Frankie's jokes.
Go on.
And I hadn't told any jokes. All fucking pissed themselves. They'd done all that. So by the time they'd finished, I thought, I've never come across a crowd like this. I didn't feel nervous, but I felt a bit strange. So I started telling gags and they weren't really laughing. So I'd done this other gag and it got a bit of a laugh, but I fluffed it up a little bit. I kind of stammered.
Yeah.
And as I stammered, this fella stands up and he goes, I'll never forget what he said. He's got verbal dyslexia. The comedian's got verbal dyslexia. So this other fella stands up, pulls out a gun, and shoots me. You know, this was like 1988, 89 or something. It wasn't like it is now. Even with a toy gun, you can get locked up now. He must have had this fucking toy gun.
Yeah.
Wasn't firing bullets, anything like that. He just must have got it from a toy shop or something. And he goes, bang, you can hear a fucking big bang. And he went, I shot the comedian.
Go on.
And he was just fucking terrible.
When you pulled the
dickheads.
gun out, were you like flapping while you were on stage?
When I saw, bang, yeah.
We just want to take a quick minute to thank our podcast sponsor, who we would not be here without, and that is Scalptec. Frank, can you tell us a little bit about Scalptec?
Scalptec is a scalp micropigmentation clinic, and it's in Bearscough near Ormskirk. Terry runs it, Terry Jones. Absolutely fantastic. I'm bald, completely bald. Look at my head, it's fantastic. It's a great effect and it's life-changing, it really is. You've got a 3D effect on your hair, looks like real hair, looks like you can grow it. It's really been probably, cosmetically anyway, the best thing that's ever happened to me. Absolutely brilliant. Scalptec, scalp pigmentation.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's essentially a tattoo on your head, innit? So if you look at Frank's hair, he is basically bald, but Terry Jones, the legend at Scalptec, our podcast sponsors, have put your head back to,
it's
looking like it's legit.
I can stand, I'm very confident I'll stand next to anybody in the UK who can grow hair and they've got a shaven head, and you wouldn't know which one was the SMP, as they call it, scalp pigmentation, and which one was real hair. It's fantastic.
So to anyone who is losing the hair, may not be able to get a transplant, who just likes the look of that close shaven look like Frank's got, because it does look proper legit.
It looks great. I mean, it's a sexy look in it for the birds. You shave your hair, you look like a Marine, don't you? Makes you look handsome. It's modern. It's very easy to maintain. You just got to shave it, once a day, once every couple of days. Mine anyway is totally undetectable. It looks fantastic. So I'm over the moon.
So if you like the look of Frankie's hairdo and you want to get yours done in a similar way, if you're losing your hair or you just don't fancy getting a turkey transplant and you want something that is going to look absolutely spot on, you can contact Scalptec, our podcast sponsors, using the links that are in the description. Terry is our mate. If you tell him that we've sent you, he will sort you out. You can also contact info@scalptec.com. Book in for a free consultation, and Frank, it will be life-changing, am I right?
It will be life-altering. You can look like me. You can be kind of like, bald and go around like I did for years, feeling kind of under the weather, no confidence. Or you can get the SMP, scalp pigmentation, and reinvent yourself as a handsome guy.
Were you aware of him pulling the gun out, like?
I
so while you were telling
this fella
jokes?
put something in his pocket and he pulled his fucking thing out.
Did you not think, fucking hell, this fella's got a gun?
I think it might have been a kid's gun.
Okay.
Like a cowboy and Indians thing from kids.
Oh, I know.
What do they call them? They've got the caps in.
Yeah, I know.
The caps.
Yeah.
But because it was so quiet, because I was telling
Them
jokes.
cap guns bang, though. They go off.
Yeah, you could see a big spark. Probably a cap gun, yeah. But my fucking bottle went. So he went, I shot the comedian. And anyway, I'd done the show. I only had to do half an hour in this place, and I was glad. They were laughing at weird things. They were very strange. And when I came off, this fella said, bet you've never been shot like that before, have you?
Mad that.
Just crazy. So I fucked off, and I thought, strangely enough, I thought that night, if I ever make it, that's a good story to tell that of what happened to me tonight. No one would believe it.
Mad. Talking about making it, I've got loads of different things on this list. One of them springs out to me because I've heard this story before and I really like this story.
Yeah.
Because I always think that your story in general is a real underdog story.
Yeah.
And, the whole sentiment of not giving up, keeping on going. I mean, me and you have been in a position before where before your video went viral in 2018, people genuinely were telling you to pack in, weren't they?
Yeah, people were saying...
Even close to you?
Close friends, were saying, fucking hell, you've never made it. Why don't you just kind of retire?
Yeah.
I always knew I'd make it in one way or the other. I knew I had the talent.
Yeah.
And you can make an analogy, really. I'm not putting myself on his level by any means, but I watched the life story of Rocky, Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah.
He had to sell his dog, didn't he? Because he couldn't pay the rent. And when he wrote out the script for Rocky, he gave it to this film company and they said, yeah, we'll buy it off you for a couple of grand, but you can't. And he needed the money so much. And he said, no, if I don't play the part of Rocky, I'm not going to sell it to you. So he called their bluff and, the rest's history, isn't it? So
didn't a weird thing happen to you with something to do with Rocky?
It was a weird thing because anybody who's watched Rocky will remember during Rocky, and I've seen a documentary about it. When he was on his run, when he's getting chased by all the kids through Philadelphia, he's running down by the docks and he's looking around him and he runs through the Italian market.
Yeah.
And he really did run through the Italian market at 6 a.m. You see people unloading vans and trucks with, joints of meat, and the people kind of like sweeping up. There's people there pulling up in cars with rolls of cheese. Very, very busy at 6 a.m, running through the Italian market. And he was saying, as I was running through, a fella in a vegetable store or whatever it was threw an orange at him. And he caught it. And he said, look great on camera. And it was just... wasn't scripted at all.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that happened.
Did that stay in the film?
That stayed in the movie.
Yeah.
Totally unscripted. He caught it and it looked great. Anyway, it was weird because that night I was watching it on the TV, watched that thing and I thought, fucking great, that's like an omen. And I thought, I've never had any omens like that, like signs, And I thought, what a strange thing to happen. So I was going up to my mate's Jimmy's up in West Derby where he lives. And I'm driving through Tubebrook the same night. It's got to be about 9 o'clock. And I'm driving up, anybody knows West Derby in Liverpool, there's a pub called a Jolly Miller. And you go up a hill called Mill Bank. And as I'm going up the hill, a fella pulled up in a taxi. And it's one of these taxis, like a taxi van, with about 8 people in it, it can hold 8 people. And he wound the window down. And he went, Frankie, how are you doing? And I went, yeah. And he pulled his camera out. He took a picture. And he said, take it. Then he threw this orange at me.
Go on.
Yeah.
And did he say anything?
No.
Mad that.
So, I mean, I'm not the greatest of I was never in a cricket team or I'm never really been kind of like, what's the word?
Sporty.
Or ambidextrous with both hands or whatever. I'm very clumsy, as you know.
Yeah.
So he threw it from his fucking taxi. He threw this orange. And I just realised, that's caught it.
Boss.
And I drove away and I thought, fucking, that's strange, that, isn't it? Like, what's the real, it's not real life imitating fiction imitating real life or whatever. It's weird, just weird. But that was a strange thing, yeah.
Do you feel like that was an omen for you?
Thing was an omen, something saying to me, look, you can do well, you can be kind of well known, you can be famous in your own way, in your own field.
Boss. So, on that note, with people being not believing in you or whatever, and, there's been people over time, as you've mentioned to me lots of times, that I've told you to give up. I've said, you're rubbish or whatever. You've had that loads throughout your life, haven't you? On the circuit or from people within the industry. And there's one particular show here that I like because it's got the Bloomfield Club in Blackpool.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. What's the situation?
Well, what it was during the 80s and the 90s, 2000, up until 2000, what people don't realise, although I was doing a lot of shows, stag shows with strippers, when you could swear on stage to your heart's content, you could say virtually anything. And a lot of rough pubs all over the north of England and even Birmingham and places, they loved you swearing.
Yeah.
When you did the social club circuit, conservative clubs, Catholic clubs, Labour clubs, and you had to do them at the weekend. If you didn't have a blue show to do, you had to learn to be clean. So I had to be a clean comic as well. And I went to this fucking club in Blackpool called the Bloomfield Club. And in Blackpool, it was kind of like, in its heyday, the end of the 80s, like there was hundreds of different types of cabaret clubs. You used to have singers on, groups on, comedians on every night of the week.
Yeah.
So this Bloomfield Club was a big deal. If you got in there, you were doing well. And all the local comics, all the kind of semi-famous comics in the north of England, they did it all the time. And the audience were getting it, were kind of like probably a little bit ruined, spoilt. Because every comic they saw, they were comparing it to the one the week before and hundreds of different comics. So they'd heard a lot of material. Mm-hmm. So although I could work clean, and I'd done a bit of TV, just after opportunity knocks, I could be clean, but I preferred to be blue.
Yeah.
And I love being blue. So I got into this club, and this fella, Tommy, came up to me, this old fella, probably fucking gone now. It was a few years ago. He was about fucking 80 then. So he came up to me and he went, right, at 9 o'clock. I said, great. He went, nothing blue. I believe you can be blue We won't tolerate language here.
Yeah.
I said, okay. So went on stage and I was trying to be clean, doing my very best silly little gags, but nobody was fucking laughing. And any comics out there will say, when you're a comedian, when you die on stage, they call it dying on stage.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing in the world. You literally feel as though you're dying, you're going to die. You're going to wake up in the afterlife. You're going to be in a fucking cemetery. It's horrible. You got 300 people who's staring at you and they don't want to know. They don't want to laugh. They don't want to laugh. They don't want to clap. So you've got to do your time. So I was on stage. So 5 minutes dying's a bad time.
Yeah.
But I had to stay on for an hour, trying different material, maybe getting a few little titters here and there. And I thought, maybe they won't pay me here because in their eyes, I've been that bad.
Yeah.
So I'm in the dressing room. I used to get a rash on my chest when I'd had a bad time. And one of my hands used to shake.
Mm-hmm.
So a fucking big rash on my chest. So this prick comes in, this Tommy fella, and he comes in. And he used to have like a little book that they made you sign for your money. And I was only on like 180 fucking quid or something then. And I had to pay the agent commission, pay me petrol and all that. So he said, will you sign here, please? I said, okay. He said, I want to tell you something now. I said, what is it? He said, you are the worst comedian I've ever seen.
Go on.
Yeah. I said, am I? He said, you're the worst comedian that's ever been in this club and you'll never be back on here. You'll never be back on stage in this club. I said, okay. So anyway, he fucked off and I'm left in the dressing room. So I got dressed. By that time, he'd gone to the stage himself.
Yeah.
And he was doing the bingo. Now, the bingo is like, I don't know, you think fucking, Taylor Swift was on fucking stage in front of a load of teenagers. They idolised the fucking bingo.
Yeah.
So he couldn't hear a pin drop. And they're all going, on its own, number one. The fucking big pens that are all marking. That's the highlight of the evening, this fucking stupid bingo. So this dickhead, this old fucking Tommy, this prick, he's going, on its own, number three. So I thought, fuck this club. Fuck this prick. I'm not the worst comedian in the fucking world. So I ran on stage, I grabbed the mic off him.
Yeah.
And I went, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Frankie Allen. You saw me on stage about 10 minutes ago. You couldn't hear a fucking pin drop.
Yeah.
I said, I had a bad time. I said, now this cunt here, that's what I said.
Yeah.
I just said, I'm the worst comedian he's ever seen. Now, this is how my mind works. If anyone in this audience agrees with him, I will never work again. Anyway, I said, does anyone think I'm the worst comedian they've ever seen? And he all started clapping me.
Go on.
Yeah. Apparently, he was hated anyway.
Go on.
And they clapped me. Then they were going, boo, boo.
Go on.
Anyway, he walked out and he was mumbling. He said something to me. And I went, fuck off. And he went, don't start any Liverpool aggression with me.
Yeah.
I said, go and fuck off, you prick.
Yeah.
Just walked out, yeah.
So the ending of this story is obviously 2018. You have a video that goes viral online.
Yeah.
People are clamoring to get tickets to see your show. People want to book you for a venue.
Yeah.
I got an inquiry from a guy, a Scottish guy, can't think of the guy's name, for the Bloomfield Club in Blackpool. We went back there. The gaff was sold out. I think there was like 250, 300 in there. It was rammed. We were sitting backstage and you told me the story and you felt good about that?
I felt good about it, but you see, I've managed and I've always wanted to get the last. I like revenge on people. A lot of people who wrote me off when I first started, a lot of people who've written me off over the last 30 years, I like to try and get them back, get my revenge on them. My mother used to say, if somebody crossed me, done a bad turn to me, she used to say, you'll see the day of him. And a lot of people, I've told you about that fella, I'll go into that another time where I saw him and I said to him, I fucking prayed that I'd see the day of you, you prick.
Yeah.
and his fucking bottle went, it dropped out of him. But sadly, a lot of my successes happened 20 or 30 years after a lot of people gave me a bad time. So that Tommy fella from the fucking Bloomfield, whatever, when we went back there, he's fucking in the spirit world floating around somewhere. He's gone. So I didn't have a chance. I was going to get an Ouija board and put it on the table and going, Tommy, remember me, you prick, the worst comedian in the fucking world. I'm fucking doing great. I'm sold out to the Bloomfield. I'm getting a standing ovation and you're fucking floating through fucking purgatory. Fuck off, Tommy. That's what I felt like doing. Yeah. But I didn't have an Ouija board.
You could always get one and go back.
I'd love to. Or get it. If Derek Acora, or bring Derek Acora, get him to speak to him and fuck him off.
Derek Acora's passed now, though.
I know he's passed, yeah. He was a good mate of mine, Derek Acora. Great sidekick. Some prick tried to set him up on the TV saying that he was a fake and all that business. No. Derek Acora, I knew when he first started out, he was very, very psychic. He was brilliant.
He was legit, according to you.
Very
He's
legit.
He's give you a reading, Annie.
He gave me some readings. He mentioned the name of my brother who'd passed away years before, my cousin who'd passed away. He was the real deal. Don't care what anyone says.
Right, okay, let's wrap up with some final few ones. I mean, we've got loads on here. I'm trying to work out which one to go through. We've got Flamingo Land. What's all that about?
All that is in Flamingo Land. I've still got a bit of a bee in my bonnet about, 30, 40
Why
years.
do you never let these stuff go?
What do you mean?
Like, you're going on about this fella from the Bloomfield Club. He's probably been dead for about 40 years.
Yeah,
like,
because
why would you still be asked?
Will, that's the kind of fella I am. Yeah. I swore in my mind that night
You've just been
that I'd see the fucking day of him.
Yeah.
And I hope I have. I have seen the day of him.
Yeah.
Even though he's gone, I'm still here. So I've
like,
seen the
when
day
you
of
were
him.
in the Bloomfield Club that night, were you like buzzing thinking, I'm not asked that, like, I'm going to go on stage and it's going to make people laugh and smile. I'm more asked of, like, yeah, that old fella that got him back.
Oh, yeah. I put a special effort in that night. And I remember getting a huge laugh in the Bloomfield. And in my mind, I was screaming, "You're listening, Tommy."
That's so mad. That's so mad. Okay, Flamingo Land. What's the sketch with Flamingo Land?
All it is in Flamingo Land. It was only a small thing. I just used a Flamingo Land. It's a big kind of like leisure park over in on the way to Scarborough in Yorkshire. And all it is just to highlight some of the kind of like corruption with a lot of the agents used to do. A lot of the agents would book you out and they'd say, will you do this show for £200? But they were actually charging, Flamingo Land was one of them, was charging the venue £500 or £600, so they'd be stealing £400 off you. And I remember going to that fucking Flamingo Land and you had to drive at pitch fucking black in the middle of Yorkshire across the moors. I remember going past this fucking sign, the Battle of Stamford Bridge, 1455, where the Cavaliers and Roundheads fought a fucking civil war. I was fucking terrified driving in the darkness, one of those places where you see a fella walking past with his fucking head under his arm and all that, fucking horrible. But what made it worse for me, I knew I was getting ripped off then. And a lot of acts got ripped off because some of the greedy agents made money on them.
The agents really kind of had a stranglehold on the business
in
back
the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. The agents, you couldn't work on a club.
You weren't working in the 60s, though.
No, I wasn't working in the 60s or the 70s, really. But what I'm saying is, but I could still, Bernard Manning was. I still know other comics that were working in the 60s, so I can say that.
Okay.
I know the history of comedy.
Okay.
It was the same in the 60s. In the 50s, when they first started after the war, all the clubs sprung up, British Legions, Labour clubs, Liberal clubs, Catholic clubs, booming. But for whatever reason, I don't know, they all went through an entertainment agent. So if you couldn't go on a trade show, they called it, audition for an agent and show in their eyes that you were good enough to work on the clubs, you just didn't work. And if you tried to get your own work, then they'd black you, And I got blacked for trying to go around getting my own work.
Were you ever at loggerheads with the agents?
Oh, yeah, I've had a lot of trouble with them. And my mate Danny Downing, who's a big comedian, everybody knows him in Benidorm now. He's like the king of Benidorm, the best comedian in Benidorm. When he was in the UK, probably because he was a Scouser, I was a Scouser, There's still a little bit with the agents. They kind of look down on you a little bit. But because we're so outspoken, if you didn't toe the party line, if you weren't a yes man, then they wouldn't give you any work. And if you're trying to get your own work, then they had this agents association, and they used to meet once a month, kind of like in a fucking room, 12 of them or whatever. And they'd have minutes, they'd talk about, has anybody got, oh yes, Frankie Allen, don't work him. Danny Downing, don't. They used to do all that, yeah.
Got you. So how come that's on there, the Flamingo Land thing? You just hate agents that much, the old school
No, I was
agents?
using that as an example.
Yeah.
That I got ripped off. I could be living now in Beverly Hills if I had a penny from every pound that's been ripped off by an agent. But having said that, you can put that all to bed. I'm doing well, so I'm not really fucking arsed. But the Flamingo Land always sticks in my mind.
Just because it was hard graft.
Not that it was hard graft. I went down a bomber, but fantastic when I got up there. It was great. But on the way home, I thought, I just got I'm a bit psychic. I went, they paid more. It was a great place. There's money in the room. When I say money in the room, you could tell by the way people were dressed and things. And I thought, they paid more than £200 for me.
Yeah.
And they had done. I found out. Don't ask me how I found out, but I found out they were paying £500 a week for the comics. Yeah.
Madness. So yeah, it seems like retribution is kind
Frankie
of like a
Allen,
big...
retribution is my middle name.
Yeah. It's always been the way. It always seems to be like, I think this is going to be something that you'll always keep with
I'll
you.
go to my grave, retribution. Anybody crosses me, anyone does anything to me, I'll always get them. And it's kind of like, I'm very kind of like, not religious, but I'm old school, whereas the New Testament, if anyone's a Christian, you study the New Testament, is forgive and forget.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody crosses you, don't worry about it. But I'm Old Testament where it says, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth.
And that means if someone's wronged you,
do the same to them.
Fair play.
Fair enough.
I'm sure there's loads more stories. I hope you've enjoyed.
I've got loads of stories.
Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Has it felt quite cathartic getting these old stories off your chest?
But these stories are in my mind all the time.
Yeah, but you're not constantly sitting there thinking, fucking hell, that Tommy was a prick years ago, are you? You're not like still dwelling on shit like that, or are you actually still arsed?
I'm still kind of hurt
Yeah.
the way over the years, I always knew how good I was.
Yeah.
But I was overlooked. I was kind of like marginalised, boycotted by a lot of the agents. It wasn't really their fault in those days. They wanted to promote clean comedians.
Yeah.
And I've always been on a bit of a kind of like tightrope. And even now, even though I say it myself, people go, fucking hell, have you seen Frankie Allen fucking picking on people? He's saying this, he shouldn't say that. He's like, it's a wonder there's not fucking... I know how far I go, but the further I go, I know I can get huge laughs, bigger than anybody else. So I'm glad I do what I do. I'm not ashamed of what I do. I'm happy with what I do. But I did have to bend, adapt, and bow my head to the agents in the 80s and 90s just to get the work. I had to go on stage telling gags that I didn't think were funny. I had to go on stage not swearing because the audience didn't want you to. And if you did swear, even if you got a laugh, then the secretary of the club had put a fucking complaint in about you. So you wouldn't get any more work.
But like your kind of rebellious nature and the fact that you've kind of like rebelled against those agents because you were like, oh, fuck them. I don't really like want to toe the party line and I want to go the total opposite way. Has that kind of pushed you into the direction of you where you are now, where you're kind of like no holds barred and you're probably the most kind of like...
Yeah, it's no holds barred. But I mean, I still don't say anything that's what you can consider really contentious. It's still kind of what I'm doing. I'd like to think I'm a new face and I've got a new slant on mainstream comedy that it used to be. And for whatever reason, and I don't know why, when the alternative comedians came onto the scene in the 80s and 90s, there was a campaign to demean, demoralise, destroy mainstream comedy.
So yeah, plenty of stories there. We've had a good 40 minutes blasting through these and we will catch you on the next episode. Have you enjoyed telling these stories today?
Thoroughly enjoyed it. Can't wait for next week. Got loads more stories to tell. And it's been great.
Thanks for tuning in. Get yourself subscribed. Give us a big thumbs up on the video. Write us a 5-star review if you are listening to this and you sound. We've been made up to have your support today. Frank, have you enjoyed it?
Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Spot on. Catch you on the next one.
Will's been brilliant as usual. And so is our engineer, Dylan.
Nice one. See you later.